The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Football Show. We start our college football conference previews with the ACC, and we're going to chat with Virginia linebacker Maddox Marcellus. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Football Show. Welcome into an all-new edition of the Sports Stove Football Show presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. Join the flavor revolution at righteousfelon.com. Use the promo code STOVE15. That's STOVE15. You're going to get 15% off your purchase each and every time. There's all kinds of flavors for you to enjoy, and find your new favorite flavor at righteousfelon.com. And again, use that promo code STOVE15 for 15% off your purchase. Well, we've got an exciting show for you. Dad will join us here in about 10 minutes, and we are going to be talking ACC football tonight, and that's all we're going to focus on tonight is the ACC. And over the next several weeks, we'll be previewing different college conferences and working to get different interviews lined up for each conference as well. And tonight, we have a very special guest joining us. I got to know Maddox over his time at EKU, and he had a breakout year last year, entered the portal in the offseason, and signed with Virginia, and now he is leading the way there. So let's bring him up on the screen, the one and only Madman Maddox Marcellus. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. And I got to ask you, how you enjoying life in Virginia?
Oh, no, it's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. It's kind of, to be honest, for me, it's just like Richmond. It's kind of cool. You know what I mean? Not really too, high pace or anything like that. It's just a calm city, calm town. So I've been enjoying it.
I love it, man. I want to ask you a little bit about that process, as much as you're willing to share with us, that transfer process. Because I know I've talked with some guys in the past that have entered and then ended up not transferring, talked to some guys that have transferred. And I know that when you went into the portal, Virginia seemed like they were on you from day one. Houston seemed to be really pushing for you as well. I know there were other schools involved. So what is that like? You put your name in the portal. How fast do the phone calls start coming?
Oh my goodness. So my thing was, I entered and then I went to go work out. I was trying not to think about it. So I entered it, and then as soon as I got back on my phone, probably like an hour later, my phone was blowing up. I was on the phone for probably like till 11 a.m. to like midnight. So it was a crazy process for sure, but extremely grateful.
It went pretty fast overall, it seems like, too. So how do you figure out, all right, your visits, and then you've got to make a decision? And I'm sure some schools were wanting a pretty fast decision. Others may have had more time for you. So who are you talking to as far as parents, siblings, advisors? Who are you talking to during that process?
Yeah, so since I entered the portal like really late, so I didn't know that the schools were gonna stop taking visits for like a certain period of time. So they wanted like to get the commits before Christmas, I guess. So my mom was definitely a big help. My dad, my younger brother. What we were just looking for was like a great staff, obviously a great football team. They're all great football teams. And just somewhere I felt comfortable, and I feel like we all made the decision that there was Virginia.
I've got a friend that covers Houston, and so I messaged him when I saw they were interested in you, and I was like, dude, if he signs, you got to get in on Maddox, and so he was all excited too. But Virginia's awesome as well, and I'm excited because me and Dad are going to be previewing the whole conference here in a few minutes, and Virginia's a team I'm kind of high on this year, and I have to admit I'm a little biased because you're there now, so that plays into it a bit. But you talk about the area is similar to Richmond when you were at EKU, but you're going to the ACC now, and that is a little different than and I don't mean to be mean to EKU, whatever the conference is called now down there. It's changed a couple of times over the last couple of years, but you're in a different atmosphere. What's it been like so far in these spring and summer practices?
It's definitely been different. I think the biggest difference is like the facilities and how there's like nutrition staff and everything. Like the access you have up here is just it's just a lot different. I mean the football has been great.
Oh, I think he just got a phone call. The wonderful thing about live streaming is sometimes things happen, and let's see if we might get them back. Oh, you might have to go back out and then in again, Maddox, if you can hear me. And we're talking with Maddox Marcellus from Virginia. Today's show presented by Righteous Felon Jerky. Check it out, righteousfelon.com. Promo code is STOVE15, STOVE15 for 15% off your purchase. I met Maddox 2 years ago at Eastern Kentucky University, covered the team there for the last few years, and got to watch Maddox play. We'll talk to him about his sophomore season. This last season had a massive breakout year, and all conference, all those, a lot of recognition and things like that as well. I think we got him back with it.
My bad.
It's all good. It happens. I want to talk about your sophomore year. Last year was a breakout season for you.
Yeah.
Sophomore, you get an opportunity, lots of injuries. You were already getting some opportunities before that, but lots of injuries really pushed you into a full-time playing mode. And
Yeah.
man, you took advantage of it every single week, it seemed like. So talk about just the growth of last year and how you grew as a player that prepared you for what's ahead here at Virginia.
I feel like definitely getting those game reps, a lot of game reps definitely helped me. I would say just understand schemes and defenses and what offenses are trying to do. I feel like that really helped me. That's the biggest thing because even here at Virginia, it's different terminology, it's different talks, but it's all basically the same thing. And before my sophomore season, I didn't really understand like terminology and everything. You know what I mean? The mental aspect of football, but I feel like having all those reps definitely helped me.
Last year, you had 97 tackles. Do you ever think about 3 that you could have gotten to hit that triple digits?
Oh my God. See, me, I feel like I got robbed a couple times on
Sure.
a couple. I was bugging Isaac about that at EKU
Yeah.
because I got 100. But nah, I definitely think about some games, but 97 is still pretty
Still
good.
good. I was we had Mike Smith on a couple weeks back before the draft, and
Yeah.
we're talking with him, and he had a fumble that did not get recorded early in the season, and I gave
Oh
Isaac
yeah,
a hard time about that too, and he
yeah.
still remembers it very clearly as well.
I know
So
about too.
we'll throw some shade at Isaac today. That's no problem.
Please, yeah. Let's say that.
All right, tell me about your team. Virginia's it's not a football program that I followed a whole lot. I had a guy in my church in Kentucky that was a massive Virginia fan, is a massive Virginia fan. So he'd keep me up to date on some things as well. But to start with the defensive side of things and tell me what you like about it. Tell me what we can expect from the defense at Virginia this year.
I feel like what you could expect is definitely high energy. You know what I mean? I feel like Virginia went out and got a lot of defensive transfers, and the people that are already there are already really good players. So I mean, everybody's really, really talented, really, really bought in and trying to win. So definitely high energy. And yeah, he's going trying to win. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And I know, you guys are early on in the summer, and so it'll get more intense as the summer program goes on and things like that. But so far, got Chandler Morris transferring in, comes in from North Texas, has some experience outside of there as well. Big year last year in North Texas. What are you seeing from Chandler Morris so far in practices that gives you the confidence that he can carry the offense to the next level?
Yeah, Chandler is obviously a very, very good player. The first time I stepped on with him, I can just tell that he's a leader. You know what I mean? He's a vocal leader. He's quick with his reads. Just overall, really, really good quarterback. You know what I mean? And he's gonna make a lot of big plays this year. He's gonna lead our team to a lot of big wins. So, and I can't wait.
Now, as a junior now, Do you find yourself starting to take on that veteran role versus maybe last year was you took on you had some leadership, but you guys had a lot of seniors,
Yeah.
solid seniors on your team last year. So now you're a junior, 3 years in. Do you find yourself taking on a new role even though you're new on campus?
Oh no, yeah, for sure. I already feel like a vet. It's crazy to say that because it just felt like I was a freshman or looking up to the older guys, and I guess having the game reps and some people not having as many game reps or game, what I mean,
Yeah.
experience. I get to share that. You know what I mean? So I kind of do feel like I'm stepping into a leadership role, but I'm still learning myself. Um, and yeah, it's crazy to even say that, but
Well, we had a lot of talk when you were at EKU about guys like you, Bailey, Marcus Cowwise last year as a freshman. Like you guys, there were certain guys that just came in. It just seemed like right mindset, physically gifted, as well, and the talent level, all those kinds of things. Jeremiah Bailey, for those I just said last name, sorry, Jeremiah Bailey. Shout out to him as well, his mother, faithful listener of the show. But so even though you're still relatively young, being a true junior, you didn't take a red shirt year. What does that mean, by the way? Do you have extra year, you think, still of eligibility now as a result of not having to take your red shirt freshman or sophomore year?
yeah, I would have. I guess that would mean if I have a redshirt year if I didn't end up playing all my games.
Yeah.
So then I have 3 years of eligibility. But yeah, I don't know if it kind of might be burnt now.
Sure. Well, the goal is you finish out your college playing career and head off to the NFL. And so no need to spend any extra time in college, I suppose, right?
Hope so.
I love
For
it.
sure.
Hey, I'm going to bring my dad on and see if he's
Absolutely.
got any questions for you as well. I don't think you've been on with my dad before, but this is my dad, Dale, by the way, Dad Maddox Marcellus. Dad, you've been listening. Any questions you got for Maddox?
Yeah, Maddox, thanks a lot for coming on. Appreciate that. I love to meet athletes, especially college athletes, people who are probably going to be pro athletes down the line. I wondered, as far as linebackers concerned, are there any NFL linebackers that you've studied or you kind of try to model your game after?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's kind of a basic answer, but Fred Warner, you know what I mean? He's a sideline to sideline, kind of same body type as me. Obviously, I still got some ways to go, but kind of just a fast sideline to sideline, quick reader. Yeah, so that's somebody I definitely try to model my game after.
Good. Do you think your biggest strength is in coverage or playing the run? I know ideally, they want you to be good at both, and you would try to be
Yeah.
good at both. Do you feel like you're more natural one or the other?
Um, I'm not too sure. It used to be. I think I'm better at the run, and then there would be times where I feel like I'm better at the pass. So yeah, I still got ways to go on both, but I feel like I'm pretty good in the run.
Right, because I know the NFL looks at both people that can
Yeah.
cover, but especially people that can tackle. And I know when you go to the NFL as a rookie, special teams is going to be a big part of everything. Will you play special teams there at Virginia?
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Rudd, our defensive coordinator, says if you're starting on the team, you got to play special teams. So that's something that I did at EKU. So I'm not really too worried about playing special teams. So I'll play special teams.
Gotcha. Good. Well, hey, I know you'll enjoy living there in Virginia. It's a beautiful state. I've had a chance to travel through it, and my wife and I always loved that. And so, hey, good luck. We'll follow you this year and in the future.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Maddox, tell me about, I know I've been through this with you guys plenty of times. I know it's the next game, first game, all that good stuff, but new conference, new set of opponents. Like, is there a game you've got circled on your calendar right now that you're like, man, I'm really looking forward to playing either at this stadium or at home against this opponent?
Yeah. Obviously, the answer is everyone. But if I had to circle one, it would probably be the Florida State game, just because from Florida, my whole family's talking about it. You know what I mean? Everybody's talking about get them tickets, and And but that game is interesting too. It's going to be Friday night, and it's ESPN, so it should be pretty fun. So yeah, obviously the answer is all of them. All of them
Yeah.
are going to be like 50, 60, 70,000. It's going to be crazy. You know what I mean? But I think Florida State should be fun.
Well, you're from the Miami area. Were you a little bummed that Miami's not on the schedule for this year?
Oh my goodness. I was telling all of my family, I was so upset that I wanted to play in Hard Rock really, really bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was definitely upset that Miami was on it, for sure. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, maybe you'll run into him in the ACC championship.
I wouldn't, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me a little bit about your coach, Tony Elliott. I got a lot of respect for him. I've never met him, of course, or anything like that, but just from watching from the outside. Yeah, and tell me a little bit about his personality and maybe how he's the same or different than past coaches you've had.
Yeah, ain't gonna lie, Coach Elliott's he's just like he was on the visit. You know what I mean? A really, really, really good guy. He's a player's coach. You know what I mean? He gets to know all the players, and one thing about him, he's straightforward. You know what I mean? He's gonna tell you the real, whether you like it or not, and that's one thing that my family and I respected about him. And yeah, I mean, Coach Elliott's been a great coach to me and everybody at Virginia. And I love Coach Elliott.
And then I was just looking it up and my screen froze. But your position coach, who's your position coach at Virginia?
Coach Mike Adams.
All right, so tell me a little bit about him because you come off of some strong personalities as EKU linebackers coaches. So tell me about him a little bit.
Yeah, he's probably yeah, he's an interesting dude. He's definitely he definitely is very passionate about his job. I love Coach Adams. Me and Coach Adams have a great relationship. He's helped me out a ton in the spring and making sure I have every detail down pat, getting on me about little stuff, and you know what I mean, making sure I have everything down pat. So, but yeah, he's definitely a high energy, high motor, and you can tell he definitely has a lot of passion for coaching.
Maddox, I'm so happy for you, man. I'm excited. I will admit I've probably watched one Virginia football game in my life.
Yeah.
But I will be paying as close attention as possible to Virginia this year because of you being there, and excited about what's ahead for you in your junior year, and excited really what's ahead for Virginia. Because like I said, I think they're on the up and up right now. And I think it could be a really good year. Could surprise some people this year as well in the ACC. So Maddox, man, I appreciate you so much. And we'll talk to you after the season's done, check in with you throughout the season and stuff like that. But please know, cheering for you, man. And if there's anything we can ever do to help, let us know. All right, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, Vince. Always, man.
Yes, sir. Maddox Marcellus, the madman, Virginia Cavaliers. Thanks, Maddox.
I appreciate you guys.
All right. That's Maddox Marcellus. Absolutely. I love Maddox. He's a great personality, great guy. And, it's funny throughout. Like I said, I had a show strictly on EKU sports for the last few years. And after a game this early in the season, Maddox goes, "Hey," he said, "when am I going to be on your show?" I said, "How about this week?" He said, "Yeah." And he's volunteered to come on whenever we want him. I really appreciate that for Maddox, and again, excited about what's ahead for him, especially. All right, Dad, let's get into it. ACC football for the 2025 season. And, there's been a lot of talk going on this week. We're not going to cover in this episode about the SEC and the Big Ten and some things that they're trying to push through and different things like that. I legitimately think that we might and highly likely to have a national champion out of the ACC this year, speaking of Clemson. And I think that you look at teams like Clemson and Penn State and the amount of returning guys that they have and the experience that they have on their teams, I think they're so dangerous this year. You've got the other teams, the Ohio States and the Georgias. I think LSU is going to be really good this year as well. And you've got those teams, your standard, Texas, standard teams. But I think we got to pay close attention to Clemson this year out of the ACC. So as we go through the ACC, and once we're done with all the conferences, we'll do kind of a recap. And obviously, as we get closer to the college football season, we'll talk through kind of a big picture college football as well. But today we're focused strictly on the ACC. We're going to look at win totals for this year. We're going to briefly hit on every team, and then we're going to also give you some tiers, how we think the teams fall into tiers. So in the past, we've done our tier system in a way that mocked one a university. We're not going to do that this year. Vanderbilt earned enough respect last year that we're gonna take their name off of our lowest tier. And so our focus this year on our tier system, we're going championship contenders, that's national championship contenders. We're going playoff contenders as tier number 2. Then we're going bowl teams as tier number 3, and then non-bowl teams as tier number 4. So we're breaking them down into 4 tiers. And Dad, when I look at the championship level tier, the national championship contenders in the ACC this year, I've got 2 of them. I think Clemson is far and above the most likely, but I also throw SMU into that conversation too. That made the playoffs last year. They're going to build on top of that, I believe, returning quarterback. There's good things going on down there at SMU. So I've got Clemson and SMU in my top tier as championship contenders this year out of the ACC. Who do you have in your top tier?
I have Clemson, and really just Clemson as far as the national championship part is concerned.
Yeah, and we'll talk about them more as a team in a moment, but in my opinion, they should be the favorites. There's so much to like about Clemson this year. And again, they've done it differently than other teams, and they do have some transfers, but overall it's guys that they've developed. And there's that continuity that we see it in college basketball. Come tournament time, that continuity plays a big role in things. And I think we're going to see it on the football field this year as well. So I don't have a problem with you only having Clemson there. Let's go to playoff teams, Dad. Who's your playoff teams, your tier 2?
Well, there I have 3 of them. I have Miami, SMU, and Louisville.
Okay. I've got 3 as well. So obviously I had SMU in the championship tier. So in my playoff tier, I've got Miami, I've got Louisville, and I don't actually trust Louisville, Dad, but there's too much there that makes me say I've got to give them the respect and put them there. If I was a betting man, I don't know that I'd bet that they'd make the playoffs, but I've got to respect them enough to put them there. The third team I have is Georgia Tech. And again, I look at quarterbacks. I look at the progress that they made last year. Haynes King is there. We'll talk about the team more in a moment, but I think Georgia Tech is this team that has the potential to sneak into the playoffs this year out of the ACC. There will be some hardships to get over, and they'll have to have the year of their lives pretty much. But I think there's potential for them to land in the playoffs this year. So I've got Georgia Tech in that tier as well. Tier number 3 is the teams we think will be a bowl eligible teams. I assume this will be our bigger tier, but who do you have sitting there in tier number 3?
Yeah, well, I have Georgia Tech there because I do think Georgia Tech will be good, no doubt about that. As far as bowl teams, have Duke, have North Carolina, several bowl teams, Virginia Tech, Florida State, Pitt, NC State, and Cal. Okay.
So, yeah, we'll differ a little bit in this. I've got Florida State. I think Florida State with Gus Malzahn is going to be a lot better this year. I've got NC State, who has potential to be really good, veteran quarterback as well. Virginia Tech. I got Syracuse there. They got a young quarterback, a lot less experience, but his pedigree is so good, and what they did last year with Kyle McCord makes me think that they can carry that over. So I got Syracuse there. North Carolina, they're one of the hardest ones to pick because you just don't know if the circus is going to outweigh the talent. I got Pitt there, and then I've got Virginia as my last team, bowl eligible team in the ACC. We'll talk about them more in a moment. I am a little biased, I will admit, with Maddox being there, but I've done a fair amount of research on them, and I think they're due for 6 or 7 wins this year. So count me in for Virginia in the bowl. So my no bowl teams, my fourth tier in the ACC, I've got Duke and Cal, who you had as bowl teams, and then I've got Boston College, Wake Forest, and Stanford down there as well. Duke is the team, Dad, that I struggle with. I got them right there on the verge of being a bowl team, not being a bowl team. Cal, I'm not a huge believer in this year, so so I've got them down there. So you've got the rest of the teams down there as well. I know you have Stanford, Wake, Boston College. I think you've got Virginia and maybe somebody else.
Yeah, Stanford and Yeah, like I said, right on the edge there, I had Syracuse, Boston College, and Virginia. So,
Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's go through kind of each team and talk about them a little bit. Let's start with Clemson because, again, they're the clear-cut favorites. Last year, they went 10-4, 7-1 in the conference. They returned Clay Klubnik at quarterback. He had 3,600 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions last year for him. He had a great jump last season, and we anticipate another jump again this year. A lot of talk about him being possibly QB1 in the draft next year. He's top 5, top 10, wherever it is. He's expected to be a high draft pick coming into the NFL next year. Then on the defensive side of the ball, they went out and hired Tom Allen. And Tom Allen was head coach at IU, then defensive coordinator at Penn State last season. It's a massive hire for Dabo Swinney to bring him in to be the defensive coordinator this year at Clemson. And they're loaded with talent. They've got a lot of NFL players on this team. They've got in my top 50, the big board, I think in my top 23, there was 5 Clemson players, and I believe 4 of those were on the defensive side of the ball. So, I mean, they have a loaded defense. Now you bring Tom Allen in, who has proven to have a great defense with already the talent level, the amount of veterans that they have on this team. And then like I said, they don't have very many transfers, but they brought in Will Helt from Purdue last year, 10 tackles for loss and 5 sacks. You're going to add him into the defensive line as well. That's a pretty big deal. And Clemson, to me, they're just clear cut the team to beat in the ACC.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. As funny as I've been reading about this. I read where somebody said that Tom Allen's hire was probably the most unique in all of college football. So I think it was highly regarded there. And of course, he'll be a good fit, I think, with the culture there at Clemson. And but yeah, Clemson's going to be stacked. And again, I think Swinney has proven he can keep people even keeled. If the quarterback, can be the guy he needs to be, then Clemson's set. The defensively they're going to be good. Again, the ACC is going to have some good teams in it, but if you've got a dominant defense, it's going to give everybody trouble, and especially any game there in Death Valley.
Yes, yeah, home is going to be an important piece of that for sure. I also tried to find one key freshman on each team, incoming freshman, if there was one that might get legitimate playing time or snaps. Running back Gideon Davidson is the one to watch at Clemson. He will not be the starter, I do not believe, but you're probably going to see him here in the beginning of or throughout this season at Clemson as well. Like I said, last year they were a 10-win team, 7-1 in the conference. I've got their over/under set at 9.5 wins. Dad, I'm over. Obviously, if I think that they're a national championship team, then they got to be over 9.5. So I'll go over and comfortably over with Clemson at 9.5.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Over 9.5 without a problem. So
yeah, and one of their big games that you got to watch for is going to be the game against LSU. That's going to be the big one. LSU is going to be a good team this year, and if you lose to LSU, then you're going to be closer to that 9 wins. If you beat LSU, then you're going to be at that 10-11 win stage as well.
Yeah, LSU's the big game that's going to throw things there, no doubt about it. And anytime you play conference games, there's going to be some of that. Now they've had new teams come in, but I think another game you got to watch because you just don't know what they're going to have is North Carolina for something like Clemson because Belichick's going to know how to rally the troops, and when you play Clemson, Clemson's going to get everybody's best anyhow. But to me, it'd be interesting to see how that game goes.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you got to think about the coaching aspect there with North Carolina. What has Belichick been so good at is taking away what everybody else is good at on defense. That being said, Belichick hasn't coached this a talentless team ever. So not to say that they're talentless, but he's been coaching in the NFL, and now he's got a first-year college team that, it might take a year or two for him to get the talent in there that he needs in there ultimately. But you're right. You're right. That's a good thing to watch as well. All right, let's head to Miami next. Last year, 10-3, 6-2 in the conference. Carson Beck comes in at quarterback. Obviously, Cam Ward, the number 1 overall draft pick this year. Carson Beck comes in really underwhelmed at Georgia this last season, but he still almost had 3,500 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. And to add to that, they also brought in a wide receiver. Let me get this up here. CJ Daniels from LSU last year, 42 catches, 480 yards. They bring in a really solid safety on the defensive side from Jacksonville State as well, and Zechariah Poiser. Dad, when I look at this team, it really all depends on two things, as it does with really any team, but the quarterback play and the defense. And last year, Miami's defense really let them down. They fired the coordinator, bring in a new guy. Quarterback-wise, they had great quarterback play, but he's gone. Carson Beck comes in. Supposedly he's healthy. And, Miami obviously saying all the right things. They're really excited about him and what he brings. He's a competitor, all those kinds of things. So it's really, can Carson Beck play up to the level that Cam Ward did, or close to the level that Cam Ward did? And can the defense pick up, fix things, I guess, on the defensive side of the ball? Dad, last year, like I said, they're a 10-win team. This year, their win total's at 8.5. I understand that because of the quarterback situation, but I'm over 8.5 for Miami. I think 9 is definitely doable for them this year. How do you feel about 8.5 as a win total?
Yeah, I think they'll win 9, so I'll have to go over 8.5 from there. Again, it'll be interesting to watch Carson Beck because, we've seen these, quarterbacks move teams, and, it's either one or two things. Either they show the fact why the other team let them go, or they come on and really do it. We've seen it with Jalen Hurt. We've seen it, Russell Wilson. We've seen it with a lot of guys, that moved teams and then had great success. So, Beck seemed like at Georgia he had the potential. So, we will see from there.
Big games for Miami. They got a fair amount of them. You got to beat the other top teams in the conference. Louisville, SMU will be big games. I kind of just count Clemson as a loss, although they could beat them, of course. But it's that Louisville and SMU games that you got to win. Notre Dame is obviously a big one. They're another playoff team. And then, Dad, I just don't think we can overlook Florida this year. We'll talk about them when we get to the SEC, but they're going to be better this year. And, these are games that could go either way for Miami. So you're talking about getting 9 wins, 10 wins, whatever it may be. You got 4 really tough games in Notre Dame, Florida, Louisville, and SMU, and you've got to win 3 of those, it seems like, at least, if not all 4. So that's kind of what I look at as what can send their year positively or spin it negatively based on those games.
Yeah, I'd agree. The games I had down was SMU and Florida. When you get these teams that have the in-state rivals from another conference that are really good, that's a big one because it's, a big rivalry. But, when it's a good team, that's going to throw things for both teams. So, and that's kind of going to be the way it's going to be for Florida and Miami.
All right, let's head to Louisville next. 9-4 last season. Obviously, Tyler Shuck is gone to the draft and in New Orleans now. They bring in at quarterback from USC Miller Moss, who last year had 2,500 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. They've also got a super talented Isaac Brown around. They've got only 4 defensive starters returning from last season, so they're going to have to rebuild that. They brought in a safety from FIU, JoJo Evans, who last year had 93 tackles, 2 interceptions, 7 passes deflected as well. He should be an impactful part of their defense coming into this year. Dad, I look at this team, though, and like I said, I have my doubts for Louisville this year. And I didn't necessarily believe in Tyler Shuck. I don't necessarily believe in Miller Moss. And so that's kind of where I come into it. Their win total is at 8.5. Man, I struggle. I feel like it's an 8-win team, honestly. So I guess that puts me at under. What are your thoughts on Louisville this year?
Yeah, like I said, I just don't know much about them. I don't, when I think of Louisville, I don't think of a team that's necessarily a power, even though they've had, some good teams in the past. So they could be good this year. 8.5. I have them down for 9 wins, so I'll go over that. We'll see there, and of course their big games. Of course they've got Clemson, but I think again SMU is going to be a key with these teams.
Yep.
If everybody splits, and that'll be different. But if somebody like SMU or Miami or Louisville dominates those series, that'll be a difference. And again, I think the in-state game with Kentucky, more about that, living there in Kentucky for a while. But, playing an SEC school, and I think they play at the end of the year again, probably. So I think that'll be a big game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got Kentucky, SMU, Miami, and Virginia Tech as the big games for Louisville this year that can really, make or break their season overall. They got a good coach. They've had success. So, success with other coaches. And so, I just, part of me says, well, you got to kind of just expect them to be at 8-9 wins. Then there's other parts of me that go, man, it just seems like this, they could tumble at the same time. So I have a hard time with them for sure. All right, let's go to SMU next. 11 wins last season, 8-0 in the conference, obviously faltered in the playoffs. But they were a playoff team last year, and they returned Kevin Jennings at quarterback last year, 3,200 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. Kevin Jennings was amazing in the ACC championship, but not so much in the playoffs, and that really hurt them. They bring in a linebacker this year from ECU, Eastern Carolina, Zaki Barker, 86 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks last season. Dad, this is a team that a lot of people seem to be down on coming into this year, and they've obviously got a tough schedule, but I'm surprised with kind of how down people are on them this year. Their win total is at 8.5, and I feel like that's a pretty easy over for me. So I'm going to go over 8.5 for SMU.
Yeah, I'll go over 8.5 again. I think they'll get 9 wins. We'll see. Was it a fluke last year? I don't think so. And again, when you're a team in Texas, you should be able to recruit and get players, with a lot of them there. And so, yeah, I would go over that. As far as big games is concerned, you got an in-state game with Baylor that you're going to have to win there, and Louisville. We've talked about that already. It'd be a big game.
Yeah, I've got all the top teams: Miami, Clemson, Louisville, as big games for them. They win all those games, well, then they're 8-0 in the conference again, probably. So that's a big one. And then I've got Baylor down as well. I agree with you there. I failed to mention freshman for Miami, by the way, wide receiver Tony Malachi and defensive tackle Dante Simpson. I didn't have any freshmen for Louisville that I thought was going to have impact this year. For SMU, though, they got 2 wide receivers that are freshmen, Dalen Singleton and Jalen Cooper, as freshmen to watch for SMU this season. All right, let's go to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech last year, 7-6, 5-3 in the conference. This is a team that had some really good moments last year. Haynes King returns as quarterback. He played 9 games last season, going for 2,100 yards, 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, plus rushing for 587 yards and 11 touchdowns. Jamal Haynes and Malik Rutherford return on offense, which is massive for this team as well. They had some experience at wide receiver, another FIU guy in the conference, Eric Rivers, last year, 62 catches, 1,100 yards, and 12 touchdowns for Florida International. And then on the defensive side, they bring a defensive end in from UTSA, Ronald Triplett, 4 sacks last season at UTSA. No impact freshman necessarily this year for Georgia Tech. Their win total is at 7.5, which would basically be where they were last year. I think they're improved. I think they're better. And if Haynes King can stay healthy, this team is over 7.5 in my opinion. But schedule-wise, Dad, I just think you look at the guys right around them. I don't look at the top tier guys. I like more of the FSUs and Virginia Techs, those kind of teams around Georgia Tech a little bit more, middle of the pack teams. I guess that Georgia Tech needs to win those games this year. I go over, though, 7.5.
Yeah, I think they'll get about 8 wins, so I would go over that. Of course, again, this is one of these in-state tough deals where they got Georgia. They'll have to play, but I think the big games for them, they can't stumble against Colorado. We don't know what Colorado is going to be this year with Coach Prime, and so you don't want to make a mistake there. And then I think the Duke game would be big for them. If they can win that, then when you look at some of the other games on their schedule, they should be okay.
All right. Yeah, if you stumble against Colorado, I mean, we're not talking – we'll talk about Colorado at a later show. But, yeah, count me out of Colorado. All right, let's go to Duke. Last year, good year, 9 wins, 9-4, 5-3 in the conference. They've got a really tough schedule this year, but they do return their sophomore quarterback in Darian Mensah. They don't return him. He transfers in from Tulane. 2,700 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. They do return 6 defensive starters. But Dad, I look at this Duke team and I'm out on this Duke team. Their win total is at 6.5 and I'm under. I don't think they're a bowl team this year. Darian Mensah, he's young, so maybe he has improvement in him and maybe they're able to develop him quickly. I just don't trust it. And again, with a tougher schedule, they're going to have to beat Tulane, where Mensah comes from. They're going to have to beat the North Carolinas. They're going to have to beat Virginia, those kinds of teams to get over 6.5. And I just don't think they're going to do it. Even as a 9-win team last year, I'm out on Duke this year. So I'll go under 6.5.
Again, I had them down for 7 wins, but like you said, the schedule is tough there. But I think they can go over 6.5, maybe with 7. Big game for them will be the Georgia Tech game, I think, without a doubt.
All right, let's keep it moving. Let's go to North Carolina. What an interesting team. Bill Belichick, obviously in as coach. Last year, 6-7, 3-5 in the conference. Belichick has loaded the staff. Massive question marks at quarterback. Max Johnson is the veteran on the team, coming off an injury. He was at A&M for 2 seasons, LSU for 2 seasons before that. 2021 was his best year. He had 2,800 yards passing, 27 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Freshman Bryce Baker is a guy to watch at quarterback as well. I'm really intrigued to see North Carolina in classic Bill Belichick mode. It's hard to get good information on what's going on there at North Carolina. 6.5 is where their win total, 7.5 is where their win total is. I've got them at 7 wins. So I'm going to go under 7.5. And I think the question really comes down to, Dad, you kind of hit on it earlier. Will the mystique of Bill Belichick play a mind game with both players and coaches this year on their schedule? We'll see. We'll see how that all plays out. But I'm going to go 7 wins for them, which is under 7.5 this year. What are your feelings on North Carolina and what they can do this season?
Yeah, I had them down for 8 wins, so I'll go over. That may not be right, but I think the mystique part will be kind of how the season starts. If they dominate the easy teams or if they make a big win or whatever, and then I think when you come into North Carolina, that'll be a little bit of a deal there. So we will see. The big games, I think, is Duke, and then maybe on the road out at Cal. That'll be a little bit of a trip for them and to see how that goes there. So, but like you said, quarterback will be an issue. Unless Tom Brady finds another year of eligibility somewhere, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Max Johnson is healthy, that bodes well for North Carolina. He's a veteran. He's got some age on him. It seems like he'd be a good fit for what Belichick wants. Versus Bryce Baker, the freshman. It's so hard. You look at a roster of North Carolina and you'll see 3 different rosters as far as who's on there, who have they actually signed, who's actually there, all that kind of stuff. And so I find it hard to figure out some of those things. But I just don't see Belichick going with a freshman quarterback. I find that hard to believe, but who knows? Maybe he will. All right, let's go to Florida State next. Massively underwhelming season last year. 2-10, 1-7 in the conference. But Dad, I'm not the only one who's higher on Florida State this year. Their win total is way above 2. We'll get to that in a second. Gus Malzahn comes over as the offensive coordinator, reunites with Thomas Castellanos, who played 7 games last year for BC, 1,300 yards, 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. In 2023 was Castellanos' best year, 2,200 yards, 15 touchdowns, 14 picks, but he added over 1,000 yards rushing and 13 touchdowns. So if they can get the athleticism out of him, that'll be a big deal. They also bring in wide receiver Deuce Robinson from USC, had 5 touchdowns last year. On the defensive side of the ball, they bring in James White, a Nebraska defensive end, had 5 sacks last year. They also bring in some freshman or receiver Javon Boggs and a defensive tackle Kevin Wynn to watch out for. Dad, their win total's at 7.5. Coming off a 2-win season last year, that's a tall order. I'm over though, because I believe in Gus Malzahn and what he can do with the offense. And I like their schedule. I think it plays out fairly well for him as well. So I'm going to go over 7.5 for FSU.
Yeah, I'm going to go under. I had them for 7 wins, so I think at 7.5, I'll go under. Big games there. I think are a couple conference games, teams that'll be right where they're at, which would be Virginia Tech and Pitt. Yeah. And if they lose those two, then they're in trouble.
Yeah, I got Virginia Tech on my list too, and then I've got the 2 in-state games, Miami and Florida. Because even though Miami's better, it's one of those rivalries that it kind of seems like maybe it doesn't matter sometimes who's, they come into a game, a lot of emotion, a lot of things going on there. So I've got them over 7.5. Let's go to Virginia Tech next. 6-7 last season. Kyron Drones played 9 games for him last year. Quarterback is back, 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, plus 6 touchdowns on the ground with an additional 336 yards. They bring in some impact transfers. Running back Terrion Stewart from Bowling Green had 898 yards last year and 6 touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball, Eastern Michigan defensive end James Joenkim, 98 tackles, 3 sacks, 11.5 tackles for loss, comes over as well. 6.5 is their win total. I think Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Virginia, and Louisville are the big games for Virginia Tech. I've got them over 6.5. I got them at that 7-win mark.
Yeah, I've got them at 7 wins, so I got them over there too. I think the big key to their season will be the 2 SEC games, which will be Vandy and South Carolina, and see how they fare against them.
All right, let's keep it moving with Pitt. Pitt was 7-6 last year, 3-5 in the conference. And last season, they started the year 7-0 before losing 6 straight games. They also gave up 33 points per game last year. So sophomore quarterback Eli Holstein returns. He had 2,200 yards, 17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last year. He is the key to Pitt. Can they, the offense, score, and can they win games? I think big games for them: Boston College, NC State, and Florida State. But Dad, I've got them going over 5.5. 5.5 is the number. I've got them going over 5.5. I think they're a bowl team this year.
Yeah, I have them on the bowl team too, winning 6 games. So that will be fine. And again, I have NC State as a big game and Syracuse is a big game.
Very good. Let's talk about Syracuse, because last year, 10-3, Kyle McCord was there, had a huge year for them. They had a lot of success. This year, they go from lots of experience in Kyle McCord to pretty much no experience in quarterback Ricky Collins. He's a transfer from LSU, but has only had a handful of snaps while there. He comes in, his career, he's 100% completion percentage, Dad. 7 for 7 for 38 yards for Ricky Collins. So watch out for that. They've got some impact freshmen as well, but Dad, ultimately, they're not going to get back to 10 wins this year. I'd be shocked if they get to 10 wins this year, but I do have them as a bowl team. Their win total is 5.5. I'm going over 5.5 for Syracuse.
I have them at 5 wins, so I'll go under there. I think looking at the schedule, it's going to be tough. And I think a couple of the big games is Pitt and Duke. And, if they can win both those, then that may change their situation. But, they've got some tough games there, no doubt. They have Notre Dame on the schedule, Tennessee on the schedule. So,
yeah, definitely some tough ones. I'm with you, though. I had those same teams on there as impact games as well. Boston College is next. They're 7-6 last season. They've got Grayson James coming in at quarterback. In 2022, or he returns, but in 2022, he was at FIU, had some experience there. Last year at Boston College in 5 games, had 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. They didn't really add much, Dad. So can they build? Can they do as good? I look at their schedule. I see some big games, non-conference with Michigan State, in conference with Syracuse and Pitt. But Dad, at 5.5, I got them at 5 wins, and I struggle with that. I kind of feel like maybe they should be at 6 or 7, but I just couldn't find those 6 or 7. So I got Syracuse going. Who are we talking about? I've got
Boston College.
Boston College. Thank you. Going under 5.5 this year.
Yeah, I have them at 5 wins, and that may even be tough. So I have them under there also. Syracuse and Pitt, again, would be 2 key games for them.
All right. North Carolina State, 6-7 last year. CJ Bailey returns at quarterback, and he's what really gives me the hope for this team. 2,400 yards, 17 touchdowns, 10 interceptions last year. But again, no real major additions in the offseason, in my opinion, at the very least. That being said, I look at quarterback as kind of the main thing for a lot of things. Their win total is at 6.5, Dad. I've got them going over 6.5 this year, improving off of last year's 6 wins. What do you think?
Yeah, I had them at 6 wins. I'd like to have them over that, but when I looked at the schedule, it was tough. And again, you got those games that are teams that are right there with them, Duke, Virginia Tech, that are going to be games, they're going to have to win. But I'll go under. I have them at 6 wins, which would put them in a bowl.
Yep. Yeah, and I've got them those same games, Dad. I got FSU, Pitt, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, those kind of teams right there that are big for their record at the end of the year. All right, let's get to Virginia. I've already kind of spoiled this one a little bit. Excuse me. Chandler Morris is the quarterback this year. They were 5-7 last year, by the way, 3-5 in the conference. Chandler Morris comes in from North Texas. He was at OU as a freshman. He was at TCU for 3 years. So this is year number 6 for Chandler Morris. They do have an easier schedule. Chandler Morris last year at North Texas, 3,700, almost 3,800 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. They also bring in Marcellus Maddox, who we talked to earlier in the program, 97 tackles, 7 tackles for a loss, 2 interceptions, 5 passes deflected, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, and 1 sack last year in a breakout year at EKU. Dad, Virginia's win total is at 6.5, so there's a little respect given to them as an improvement on last year. I do think they're a 7-win team, so I'm going to go over, but the big games for them are going to be Duke, North Carolina, and Virginia Tech, in my humble opinion. How do you feel about Virginia?
Well, I really enjoyed meeting Maddox, so that will change me just a little bit, as far as rooting for them this year, and I hope Virginia does well. But at 6.5, I only had them at about 5 wins. So right now I'll have to go under, but I hope I'm wrong on that. Virginia Tech will be a big game, obviously in the state there. And I think several of these ACC teams, how are they going to do traveling out west? And they go to Cal also. So that would be a big game.
All right, well, let's talk about Cal next, because I don't think it'll be as big a game, and they need to win it. There's no doubt about that. Cal went 6-7 last year, but they're going with a freshman quarterback this year, and Jaron Kiwe Sapapolotele, I think is how you say that. They also bring in a transfer from Ohio State and Devin Brown, but it seems like they're going with the freshman this year. And I look at the schedule. They're at 5.5 is their win total. Boston College, Virginia, Duke. You win those 3 games, you're going to be over 5.5. I just don't think they win those 3 games. I think they win one of those 3 games. So I got them going under 5.5, Dad.
Yeah, I have them at 6 wins as a bowl team, so I can go over on that. Again, North Carolina and Duke would be 2 big games there for them. And how will they fare coming east and
Right.
Playing a whole different set of teams. So, that's going to go either way. They're playing different ones when people play them. That's, different here also. So we'll see how those West teams, when you look at the Atlantic Coast Conference and you see Cal and Stanford, you just scratch your head, but we'll see.
Dad, no one's called it the Atlantic Coast Conference in quite some time. It's just strictly letters now. So don't read too much into it. We have lost the words to these conferences. All right, let's go to Wake Forest next. 4-8 last year, 2-6 in the conference. They basically bring in a bunch of guys from Washington State that follow their new head coach with them. Quarterback, though, they landed Deshaun Purdy. He's out of Charlotte. Florida was really interested in him. There were several other teams as well. Last year, 1,800 yards, 10 touchdowns, 8 picks. So I think you got to watch out for him. Let's see here. They also brought in Robbie Ashford from South Carolina. Not a lot of experience, quarterback there. Defensive end Gabe Kershke from Colorado State comes over, 6.5 sacks this last season. Dad, I just don't see their win total's 4.5. I don't see it. I'm going under. And I've got their big games as games that they should win, but might not. And that's Kennesaw State and Delaware. Delaware just comes up from 2A. Kennesaw State, as a team, I've seen some, and I think they got a new coach this year too. But if they can't win those 2 games, they're not going to get over 4.5. So I'm going to go under.
Yeah, I don't have them as a bowl team, but I had 5 wins just based on some stuff I read. But again, that could easily be wrong. Virginia Tech will be a big game for them, no doubt about it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, last team is Stanford. I have so few notes on Stanford, Dad. They fire their coach late in the process. They bring in Frank Reich to manage the ship for the time being. Andrew Luck is obviously running everything. They've got a redshirt freshman, Elijah Brown, as quarterback. Last year, played sparingly, 274 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I've got their big games as Cal, BC, Boston College, San Jose State. Their win totals at 3.5, Dad, and call me a romantic. I've got them at 4 wins. So I'm going to go over 3.5 for Stanford, which would be a massive improvement from their 3 wins last year if they get to 4 this year. How do you feel about Stanford?
Yeah, 3.5's not much. I can come up with more than 2 wins. So we'll go under that. And again, I think Boston College and Virginia would be big games for them. And, hard to believe a team wouldn't get to 3.5. But again, there's a lot of teams in the middle of the pack here that are going to be good. So unless they can jump up and surprise some people, it could be a tough year this year. Frank Reich will have some rebuilding to do.
For sure. All right, well, that's the ACC. Next week, we're looking at the Big 12. And I cannot announce a guest yet, but we will try to land one to talk to next week as well as we cover the Big 12 and what is to go there. We'll probably talk about some more of the college football news, especially if we get a little bit more insight on the college football playoffs and kind of less guessing and more actually knowing what's happening there as well. There's NFL stuff going on as well. Stephon Diggs making a fool of himself this week and other contract disputes with other people and all kinds of fun stuff going on right now. So we'll talk about that more next week. But I sure want to thank Maddox Marcellus for joining us at the beginning of the program tonight and appreciate him taking some time for us. Thank you to Virginia for allowing him to do that. And we'll just continue this process as we go through college football conference. A couple of things of note. The Belly Up Fantasy Live football show kicks off on Tuesday night at, 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. on Tuesday night. You can catch that on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel or on the Belly Up Fantasy Sports Facebook page. So make sure you check that out. Or if you'd rather listen to audio versions, you can go find the Belly Up Fantasy Live podcast available wherever you get your podcasts as well. And I'll be hosting that this year with my friend Kevin Wilson, who does the Fantasy Baseball Show with me, and Brian Germanaro from Belly Up Sports as well. And the 3rd and 10 podcast will be joining us as well. So make sure you tune into that on Tuesday nights. Sunday nights is the Fantasy Baseball Show. You can always catch that there as well. All right. Well, Dad, this is the longest we've gone in a while. So we've hit the hour mark. It's time to sign off. Make sure you go check out Righteous Felon Jerky at righteousfelon.com. Promo code STOVE15 for 15% off your purchase. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Sports Stove Football Show. Until next time, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.